All right, everybody. Hello, and thank you for joining our video town hall. Welcome back. We're joined today by our host, New York Republican Party Chairman Nick Langworthy, and our very special guest, our GOP nominee for Governor, Lee Zeldin. I just want to give you a brief rundown of how today's event will go. In just a moment, we're going to turn it over to Chairman Langworthy, who will offer some brief remarks and welcome Congressman Zeldin. Congressman Zeldin will speak for a few minutes with the chairman, and then at the end, we will save some time for a Q&A with all of you in the audience. We are on a pretty tight time frame today. The congressman has a very busy schedule, as you can imagine, getting around to a bunch of events. So we'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible. If you would like to ask a question, please just type it into the Q&A box and it will be read aloud. So the Q&A box is at the bottom of your screen. Just type it in and we will get to as many as we can. And with that, here's our host today, Chairman Langworthy. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. As always, it's great to be back with everyone on our video town hall series. And I am thrilled to welcome you back to our series. And we have our very special guest, and for the first time, as our official New York Republican gubernatorial nominee, the next governor of the state of New York, Congressman Lee Zeldin. Lee had a tremendous victory on June 28th, winning more than 40% of the vote in a pretty contentious four-way primary. And it was an incredible win, and I am so proud how our party has come back together, completely united behind Lee and our mission, which is so important, to fire Kathy Hochul. Lee has been working tirelessly every single day. I have never seen a candidate work harder than Lee has, every single day, crisscrossing the state. And he'll be sharing with you how the campaign's been going and what he's hearing on the road from voters as he visits all of New York's 62 counties in all of our regions. But before we welcome him, I just want to thank you all for joining us and being back with us here today. There is real energy this year, and it hasn't been felt like this for a very long time. The ground is shifting, and people are going from woke to awake, and they're ready to send a big message in November. The Democratic agenda has been a monumental failure. One-party Democrat rule in Washington and New York has put a giant spotlight on just how disastrous their policies really are. Day after day of people falling victim to violent criminals, and everyday expenses like gas and groceries, they've become completely unaffordable. In the corruption of the Cuomo-Hochul regime, it permeates the halls of the Capitol, with every single New Yorker paying a corruption tax. That stops this November, and it stops with Lee Zeldin as our governor. And even the liberal polling shows that we are on our way to a big victory this year. It is within our reach, and Lee is going to be the one to get the job done and achieve it. He's on a mission to save our state, and as he always says, losing is not an option. So please join me in welcoming him to our video town hall series. Ladies and gentlemen, the next governor of the state of New York, Lee Zeldin.
Hey, Chairman, it's great to be with everybody. We're just heading into our campaign office now. We've been busy out on the trail. It's been great once you get past the primary to be able to start speaking even more to independents and Democrats. Over the course of the last week, the travels took us to the Bronx Dominican Day Parade, to the Jamaican Jerk Festival in Queens, to meet with Jewish voters in Kew Garden Hills in Queens and Flushing and Brighton Beach, meeting with Asian voters in Chinatown and Manhattan, and inside of Sunset Park in Brooklyn. We've been busy on the trail all across the entire state. Lost count how many times I've been with you there in Buffalo since this campaign has started, how many dozens of times we've been to Rochester, and we've been to Syracuse, but all these trips have also taken us to some of the smallest parts of this entire state. We just this past weekend, we put a little over 1,100 miles on the car. We were in Herkimer and St. Lawrence. We were in Franklin and Clinton and Saratoga and Albany. I had my wife and kids with me. It's one of the advantages of doing this campaign over the course of this summer with the kids out of school. daughters are turning 16 next month, and they want to be on the trail more. And unfortunately, while they're busy with school, it's not like the same thing when you're campaigning and they're in the 6th grade. But we're feeling good all across the entire state, from New York City to Suffolk County to Buffalo to the North Country and everywhere else in between. I find myself talking about the Southern Tier and the need to reverse the state's ban on the safe extraction of natural gas and approve new pipeline applications. Finding ourselves just now, I got out of a meeting where we're talking about upstate manufacturing, the Farm Labor Wage Board looking to change the overtime threshold from 60 hours a week to 40 hours, really putting the screws to our farmers. To yesterday when we were doing a press conference outside of Jose Alba's bodega, where because of rising crime, where Jose Alba is deciding that his American dream is over, and he's decided that he's going to go back to the Dominican Republic. We need to remove Alvin Bragg, any DA who refuses to enforce the law. We have to repeal cashless bail in this state. Fight for our kids and the quality of education inside of our schools and so much more. What unites us, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, of all parties, of all walks of life, all counties, all regions, is so much stronger than what divides us. Top 2 issues: crime and the economy. Less than 3 months to go until Election Day. We all everywhere have to go all in fighting for the future of our state. And as you pointed out, and I really feel it, this race, losing is not an option. This entire ticket, all of our statewide candidates for Congress, for Senate, for Assembly, everybody, everywhere, we all need to go all in, not just trying to ride a wave. We actually have to create the wave through hard work and taking nothing for granted. Looking forward to answer everyone's questions, Chairman. Thank you for your leadership and your friendship. And it's going to be 3 months that'll go by very quick. The stakes have never been higher. And in order to have that hard fought win for all of us to celebrate on November 8th, we have to work hard for it between now and then.
There's no doubt, and you've been working very hard for it. It was very exciting to be with you in Nassau County on primary night and the electric crowd that we had there. Why don't you give us a update to kick things off on, what is the battle plan as we go post primary? I mean, you're still crisscrossing the state, and I got to say, this is something that we, oftentimes don't see from statewide candidates, where it's not like you were just out there getting primary votes and now you're done with certain areas. You are still traveling the entirety of New York and not just in one little corner of the state. So why don't you give us a little bit of an update on the campaign and how people can get involved right now?
All right, for sure. Now I'm going to switch my camera now that I got into the campaign office. There we go. Okay, we're good. Okay, we put the volume up a bit. All right, so listen, it's been quite a journey over the course of the primary campaign. You spent a lot of time talking to Republican primary voters, and once you get past June 28th, you're able to focus on being able to speak to everybody more. We need to hit our benchmarks in all 62 counties of this state. We need 60% of the vote in Suffolk, 55% in Nassau, 29% of the vote in New York City, 43% of the vote in Westchester. The 4 biggest counties that you have to pop up over 50%, Orange, Onondaga, Monroe, and Erie. My message, even if you're in the smallest county in New York, is that if everybody everywhere goes just a little bit harder, a little bit further, you find a few extra points. If 15 or 20 of the smallest counties in New York were all trying just a little bit harder, that could be another 2.5% of the vote statewide, and that could be the difference between winning and losing. We need to recruit our poll watchers, everyone out there who wants to help, get them involved now with Get Out the Vote. Let's start planning from Election Day backwards. Let's get our message of what we stand for as Republicans, and also what Kathy Hochul is doing wrong. When she says, we say we should repeal cashless bail, she says there's no data. Show me proof. When we say Alvin Bragg should be removed, Kathy Hochul says Alvin Bragg just got there, cut him some slack, he's doing his job. We say that the murder charge in Jose Alba should be dropped. Kathy Hochul says it's a local matter, she's not going to get involved.
We're seeing with the scandals, the corruption, the pay for play, the abuse of state aircraft. You and the state Republican committee have been leading the charge and making sure that there's accountability with regards to all those facts. You've been doing the press conferences and the rallies, and I appreciate you doing your good work to get that message out. We all everywhere need to communicate through our networks, on social media, email, text. There was a saying in politics that if you go talk to 5 people and they talk to 5 people, then that's how the message spreads. But in this day and age, in 2022, if you talk to 2,000 people and they talk to 2,000 people, that is a quick and efficient way this day and age to be able to get our message out, taking nothing for granted. But every means possible, whether it's somebody to donate $5, knock on doors, make calls, it all adds up.
So let's give the website, let's get people to sign up today. You know, Lee, how do they reach the campaign and how do they sign up to help support the campaign financially, volunteering? You know, what's the address?
ZeldinforNewYork.com, and we're all over social media as well. So getting involved in the conversation on social media, you know, retweeting tweets and posting on Facebook and whatnot to help get the word out, sharing content, that's all very helpful. On our website, you can sign up for email updates. We send out a weekly newsletter. You can sign up to volunteer. We have merchandise that you can get your hands on. There are many, many different ways to engage with this campaign.
That's great. Now, Kathy Hochul, she's not only adopted the Andrew Cuomo pay-to-play handbook, but she's taken it, honestly, Lee, to a whole new level. Can you share with our audience how her corruption has affected New Yorkers, and what are your plans to solve these problems so that this never happens again?
A fundamental principle that should be one adopted by all is that public service is about serving the public. For Kathy Hochul, it seems like public service is about being served by the public. She thinks that we want to be ruled by an emperor governor. We don't. People want to be in control of their government again. We've seen stories where a donor will give her hundreds of thousands of dollars. She'll get 300,000 from one family, and then that family will end up getting hundreds of millions of dollars in a no-bid contract. Now, people out there are saying, well, how is that possible? Because New York has competitive bidding laws, right? Yeah, we do. But every 30 days, Kathy Hochul signs on to COVID emergency powers that she grants herself. These aren't even from the legislature. With the power that she gives herself, each month she extends these powers, and that's how she enacted this no-bid contract for a campaign donor. And every day there's a new story coming out from somewhere, it seems. I'm constantly hearing about all these scandals, selling access out to the Capitol, abusing the state aircraft. The pay-to-play corruption with this governor is second to none. And I can't even think the last time the state has ever had a governor as corrupt as Kathy Hochul is. And now we're already on our 3rd lieutenant governor in less than a year because of other scandals that have emerged. It's just time for us to be able to try something different in this state, where November 8th, we elect a governor and lieutenant governor to a 4-year term. And then 4 years later, because there's no scandal, there's no indictments, there's no resignations, we still have the same governor and lieutenant governor at the end of their 4-year term. Other states do it. It works. But the Democrats running Albany, they have not yet figured it out. They are not trying it. We keep going through this rotation where you elect a governor and lieutenant governor to a 4-year term. You don't know whether or not, who's going to be your governor and lieutenant governor 4 years later, but there'll be some kind of changeover. We need to stop being an embarrassment nationally. We have to reverse this trend where we're leading the whole country in population loss. Kathy Hochul has to get her priorities straight. She's not focusing enough on crime and the economy as she travels around the state, just trying to raise funds and selling access out the back door of the Capitol for it.
I mean, the way I look at this race, we have 3 issues. It's crime, it's the economy, and it's corruption. And that's what people have to have on their minds. That's what people are talking about in the streets of New York, no matter if you're, in Plattsburgh or in Hapog. I mean, it's all the same 3 issues that are affecting all of our lives and our future here. Now, people think of our inflation as just a national issue, and it really is. But New York's economy was in decline long before Joe Biden took office. Can you talk about our economic problems here in New York and how you're going to make things better and make a brighter future for New Yorkers?
We need to make our state agencies business friendly again. We have people who work in the DC who will extort someone trying to get a permit. You have people who work for the state liquor authority who will harass a business owner because they answered the door they weren't wearing their mask, and the business owner say, "Hey, I'm closed. No one's even in here," but you're still getting harassed. Amazon wanted to bring 25,000 good paying jobs to Queens, and then you have AOC and her friends all mobilizing to block it. So none of the jobs ended up coming. None of that investment ended up being made. Other businesses are deciding, you know what, if you're going to treat Amazon like that, why would they decide to come either? You have taxes that are out of control. You have a quality of education that's being eroded. You have new regulations coming in. The sledgehammer to manufacturing has taken its toll on what was once many vibrant upstate communities. There is a need for us to massively swing this pendulum back where New York is back open for business again. And if you want to chase opportunity, you chase opportunity in New York State. You don't go elsewhere for it. You want to live the American dream? You follow that American dream right here in New York. You don't have to go elsewhere to chase it. You want to live your life free? You want to live your life safe? Well, you should be able to do that right here in the Empire State, in a state that's restored to glory, but it's not going to happen as long as Kathy Hochul is in office right now. On the economic front, we need to bring spending under control in the state. We have to cut taxes across the board. We have to enact the largest tax cut in the history of our state, reverse the state's ban on the safe extraction of natural gas, approve new pipeline applications, put new people in charge of state agencies who are actually business friendly, and they want to recruit businesses from other states to come here, and that business that's getting recruited by that governor from some other state to go elsewhere, we are making a stronger pitch that they instead stay here, they expand, they grow, and they never leave. It is a very different approach than what we're seeing with Kathy Hochul right now. We have no choice, and the solutions are actually quite easy for us to turn this around.
Well, that piggybacks with Henry's question. Now, if you want to ask a question of Congressman Zeldin, we're going to try to get to everything we can, but type it into the Q&A box here. Henry says, I've seen Ford, IBM, and others close factories in New York. And since 1999, I've seen China go from slums to wealth and to become the #1 manufacturer in the world. What can you do to bring manufacturing back to New York as governor of our state?
Well, in a way, a lot of what I had just stated applies here. We have to be more competitive on the tax side. We have to be more competitive on the regulatory side. We have businesses here in New York deciding that their business model in another state would allow them to be able to be more competitive with pricing. They will be able to have lower overhead. They will be able to grow. They can have more jobs. They can have more space. Maybe they need to build a 100,000 square foot extension. And here in New York, they feel like it might take them 3 or 4 years, where some other state is bragging about how quickly they will trip all over themselves to lay out the red carpet so that 100,000 or 200,000 square foot space can be built in months, not years. So it's really an all of the above approach where everything in our power to reopen New York for business, from the first moment we are sworn in, the people who are taking over these state agencies, they're not there to be harassing hardworking New York business owners. They're trying to make sure that we have the best possible business climate to create jobs and opportunity. Again, we don't look at businesses as an enemy. We embrace this opportunity for our state. If you want to generate more revenue, let's do it not by raising taxes. Let's do it by having more jobs, more people who are working and they're making more from it. To sum it all up, the people who run the agencies, the business climate that we have, the taxes need to be reduced, and the overly burdensome regulations taking its toll that have to be removed. All of that together and then some all result in manufacturing and more, all getting the boost that it needs here in the state.
That's the truth. Congressman, crime and repealing bail reform is really the top issue of your campaign, along with your running mate Allison Esposito, who is just an absolute rock star in the finest decision that you could have possibly made as a running mate. But this issue personally touched you, a very chilling moment last month on a campaign stop, where somebody got very close and threatened you. Do you think that this issue is resonating with voters, and can you share with us what your plan is to restore public safety?
The will of the people of New York is to repeal cashless bail. Judges need discretion to weigh dangerousness and flight risk and past criminal record and seriousness of the offense on far more offenses. We have a problem in the state with pro-criminal laws that are getting passed, with more pro-criminal laws that one-party Democratic rule in Albany want to get over the finish line in January. We have DAs like Alvin Bragg refusing to enforce the law. My first action, my first day right after I'm sworn into office, is to let Alvin Bragg know that he's fired. We have lax judges who are letting people back out on the streets who shouldn't. The Goldman Sachs employee who was shot in the subway not that long ago, released by a judge, where the prosecutor in that case was requesting bail. The Times Square slasher that made the news last week, released by a lax judge, and in that case, the prosecutor had requested bail. I believe that on all fronts, we need to support our law enforcement and do so unapologetically, pass a law enforcement bill of rights, overhaul the parole board, protect victims' rights, stop releasing cop killers and murderers and rapists, especially without reaching out to those families to get their guidance, their insight, their testimony, and that should be considered. It should be a unanimous vote, not a majority vote when the parole board's making these decisions. The Halt Act was implemented April 1st. The new quarterly data from April 1st to June 30th just came out, and assaults on correctional officers are skyrocketing. The Halt Act needs to be repealed. The discovery law changes need to be rolled back. Less is more has resulted in people released early from prison who should remain behind bars. Less is more act should go. We have a need from raise the age and more for all of us together to be working together come January to get this done and to do it quickly, to make sure that our streets belong to law-abiding New Yorkers and they don't belong anymore to criminals, which unfortunately, sadly, for a lot of New Yorkers, they do feel like that street right by their apartment, their home, is no longer a street that they're in charge of. It's a street that the criminals are in charge of. Right at the top of the list, with the backs of the people of New York, the will of the people is to overhaul cashless bail. Kathy Hochul says there's no data. There's plenty of data.
Well, we have to get it done. You have to use the extraordinary powers of the governor to get it done when we break these supermajorities in the Senate and the Assembly. And I know you're campaigning with our ticket in every single region of the state. We work every single week with Leader Barkley in the Assembly and Leader Orr in the Senate. And, this team is on the same page, on the same message, top to bottom, bottom to top. And the issues and the divisions between the two parties in this state have never been more clear. And why we need to restore balance, because people this year are finally going to stop voting against their own best interests. And that's where, our path to victory comes. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about, the different regional divisions? I mean, obviously, you're going to perform much differently on Long Island than perhaps the 5 boroughs, how the campaign's evolving and where we have to go to win. What are our path to victory vote wise to win in different regions of the state?
When the a surge strategy at the beginning of 2007 went into place, there was this counterinsurgency model that General Petraeus and his team used, and there was one guiding principle, and there are many principles inside of that counterinsurgency strategy, but one is give flexibility to local commanders so that they can adapt to changing circumstances. I would say that for everyone on this town hall, everywhere in New York, whatever initiative that you can take to get the message out, just go out and do it. This is not a campaign where we need to be micromanaging everything at some campaign headquarters. We have 62 counties of the state. We need everybody everywhere to just do everything in your power that you know that's right to get this message out. If you need to contact us because you need literature, you need palm cards, you need yard signs, yeah, come do that. You can contact Jordana at zeldinfornewyork.com, Jordana. Yeah, send her an email. Let her know that you need help in accessing yard signs or palm cards. Maybe you know where your local county committee headquarters is and you could just go there. But even if you don't know, send that email and we'll get it to you. But I would just encourage all of you with the local organizations. Maybe you're involved in a veterans service organization. Maybe you're active in your local chamber of commerce, or you're active in a group that has nothing at all to do with politics at all. Just take this own initiative to talk to people and tell them, by the way, that it's not just a right to vote, it's their duty to vote, it's an obligation to vote, it is their responsibility to vote. We all are, in a way, ambassadors of this effort to get this message out. I will continue to travel this entire state. We got in this race just over 16 months ago. In our first 6 months of the campaign, we had already campaigned in every county in the state at least twice. And we just kept going from there. But you can't wait for the next time that I might pop into your town before you're ramping up that effort in your local town. You could take over the campaign for your street, for your town. We need a whole lot of people just to take a tremendous amount of initiative. You can go on social media, start getting the word out that way. Look through the email list, look through your phone contacts, and put the ask on people. Don't just ask them to help out a little bit. We need everybody to do everything. This is not about riding in a wave. This is about creating the wave. And the way that this wave is created is through hard work by all of us. Regionally, what's interesting is that a lot of the issues are aligned. I have found that in some parts of the state, maybe the number one issue is crime, the number two issue is the economy. In some other part of the state, the top issue is the economy, the second issue is crime. There are other issues that I'm passionate about, from education to COVID mandates, to be able to combat this corruption that Hochul has been at the tip of the spear in all the wrong ways on, and more. And all these issues are really important. Have those conversations with people, engage them. And if you have any questions on where I stand on any particular issue, just reach out to us directly and we will get you that answer.
Got a couple quick policy questions that keep coming up here in our comments box. Can you talk about the current plan to implement congestion pricing in New York City and what you would do if you were governor?
Yeah, congestion pricing is such a bad idea. Kathy Hochul's gone all in with it. It's now the Hochul-owned Hochul hike. And for New Yorkers who are already struggling to make ends meet, they can't afford a whole nother fee to be able to travel around their community, to get to work. And for other reasons, they're creating 24/7 speed cameras just went into effect. Now they're talking about congestion pricing. Kathy Hochul and the Democrats just trying to find new ways to put their hands in your pocket. And rarely will you see any of this money back. And the worst part is that when you rarely do see any of the money back, they expect a thank you. They actually expect you to thank them. They're giving you your money back. I think congestion pricing is a horrible idea from the economic standpoint. And I would also offer that it also is a disservice from the standpoint that it adds congestion into these side streets. In Queens and Brooklyn, they're going to start seeing more congestion because people are going to be using back roads to be able to avoid that fee. It's going to be a mess. It was a mess in London where a lot of the traffic was dumped onto these side roads, but just on the economic front alone, people just can't afford the fee. You can say, oh, it's just another $9, or it's just another $23, or it's another $30. For New Yorkers who have been hit so much already, and the fact that these are fees that people are going to be paying over and over and over again, it's going to add up quickly, and it's going to result in more New Yorkers hitting their breaking point and fleeing the state for good.
Let's just touch briefly, and I know we've got a hard stop very soon. The Halt Act. Several people have brought up the Halt Act in their questions. One, first, can you explain what the Halt Act is to some people that might not be familiar, but what's your position there?
The Halt Act is a new law that went into effect on April 1st in New York, limiting the tool of solitary confinement for our corrections officers, where inmates can do really bad things inside of prisons, but no longer be facing that punishment that is effective enough to maintain good order and discipline. And inmates, they know about the new law, and they are assaulting our corrections officers left and right. There's more violence that we're seeing inmate on inmate, or as Kathy Hochul is now insisting, we can no longer say inmate, whatever. The inmate on inmate violence, that was a new law that she just signed yesterday or the day before, saying we can't say inmate anymore. You have to call them incarcerated people or whatever. She's trying to be politically correct. Yeah. Listen, I believe that we should be doing everything in our power to protect the corrections officers. These people put their necks out there on the line. It was a tough job already. What we need to be doing is repealing the Halt Act and allowing the corrections officers to have that seat at the table again in Albany, where everything that they need in order to be able to maintain discipline inside of that prison, to keep the use of unusual incidents, the use of force, all of that down. We want to increase morale. We want this to be an occupation that is as safe as possible. And right now, Albany is making laws to make this particular occupation as dangerous as possible. We can't repeal the Halt Act fast enough.
No, that is great. Our time has come to a close. And I hope we could do this again, maybe next month. Congressman, we've got so many people online here today. They're doing our Facebook Live. They're pumped up. They're ready to go. When I meet people across the state, at our different campaign events, you have people that are showing up for the first time in their lives. They've never gotten involved in a political campaign, but they understand what's on the line here, what the mission is to save our state. And they want to get involved in this. So, why don't you again give us, the website, where to go, where to get involved. I love your prescription of go do it. Don't wait for permission. Go talk to your friends, your neighbors, go through your phone, your text, make sure they're registered to vote. There's still time for people to register to vote and get into this election. And they don't have to be Republicans to support and vote for change in this state. Change is Lee Zeldin, and he is exactly what we need to turn this failing state around. We desperately need the help, and people in all corners of this great state are crying out for help. So I thank you for taking on this mission, Congressman. Give us one last pitch as to how people can join the team, get involved, and get activated.
Website, zeldinfornewyork.com. You could sign up for email updates, text alerts. You can sign up for what is a weekly newsletter. You can volunteer. You could get campaign merchandise. You could fly a flag outside of your house, get a yard sign, get a bumper sticker. Follow us on social media, get engaged in the conversation. And we don't want to run a campaign where any of you are out there saying, you know what, I never heard from Lee Zeldin's campaign. I wanted to help out, but I never heard from them. I'm asking you right now, you're hearing from me at this moment. Just go out there and spread the word on your own initiative. That you all know what to do. And these last 3 months are going to go by quickly. If you want to volunteer, you can sign up on our website. But as Nick and Chairman Langworthy and I were just pointing out, it's going to require a whole lot of initiative by thousands upon thousands of people who all just decide, you know what, you are going to take control of destiny to get this done. This election is going to come up quickly. Before you know it, it's going to be Labor Day. Before we know it, early voting will begin in person. If you know anybody who's going to be traveling, they're going to be out of the state. Maybe you have someone in the family who's in the military. Make sure that everybody gets their vote in. If they have to ask for an absentee ballot because they're traveling, have them put that request in. It's going to be important that we have max participation. It is a responsibility for all of us to get this done. And the only way that we're going to win is by everybody showing up. If you come across anybody who says, you know what, the people in Manhattan always decide who the governor is, so I'm just not going to vote. Tell them That's the reason why people in Manhattan are deciding who the next governor is because you're not voting. I want people in all 62 counties to all feel like they have a voice and representation in our state capital again. It all adds up if everybody everywhere goes all in. I guarantee you we will win this race.
Well, you're doing it every single day. Your running mate, Allison Esposito, is doing it every day. We're going to keep these going weekly. We're going to bring our statewide candidates into focus for everyone. Congressman, let's do this again next month and fire the troops up again. I think it's a great way that we can come together, touch gloves, and discuss our campaign and how to go out there and get this election done. So thank you so much for carving out a piece of time for everybody here today. We look forward to seeing you out on the trail.
Losing's not an option.
Let's do it, folks. Thanks for tuning in.